on the normal human standards, much less what the alleged family values of the Republican Party over the years. The
Hmm.
illusion of family values that they've been selling for a very long time. And hi, chat room. Sorry, we had to restart our streaming software for some reason. It just
Yeah.
decided to freak out.
And
It's now up.
the self-appointed protector of children of the QAnon
Oh
people are
yeah,
now like defending
nothing,
this dude.
nothing.
Well, that's
Yeah, it's
sure we don't
obvious.
want child molestation, but this
Yeah,
kind's okay.
it's obviously the cabal is actually coming after him. The real child molesters are making him look like a child molester. I'm like, guys, you do realize that's the argument against the entire QAnon movement, that it was
Yep.
always a smokescreen for genuine pedophiles in, not some giant cabal that, that has its, hand like a spider claw all over the top of the earth, like something out of Stranger Things, but local level, um, you know, opportunistic,
Hmm.
like creeps just taking advantage of gaps in the system.
Thank you.
Which is, I mean, you could make the argument that that's what happened to the Catholic Church, that's what happened to the Boy Scouts, that's what happened to the Republican Party. Because once you start saying we are the virtue party, you're safe with us, then it's like the vast majority of people who join it will be of that ilk, but it rings the dinner bell for people who are
Yeah.
like, this is perfect cover for me. Access to children, the Dennis Hasterts of the world,
Oh.
right? That is what
Saying the words access to children.
that's what
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
that's what they sought out. I mean, what is it? Was it Mark Foley in Florida who was in charge of? He was literally on the Missing and Exploited Children Committee, and he was nude texting 12-year-old pages. Like this is
Oh
not a
my.
mystery. It is almost as if how you take a like you try to invert. Oh my God!
Holy moly, hell victory.
Thank you so much for the super chat. In memory of Lee. Well, oh, man, holy smokes! Thank you so much for the super chat, and thank you guys for the support of the show in general. It's good to be with you today. Um, the one thing that stands out to me in the Matt Gaetz storyline is, first of all, the silence around people supporting him. The obvious ones: Jim Jordan, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then of course Trump himself, kind of doing the perfunctory. Well, he covered for me while I was obviously criminally, involved in this, so I
Has
should.
Trump commented on this already?
Yeah, he gave a kind of a muted, you know, Matt Gaetz said he was innocent kind of statement. He's done this before with other people. He's totally strongly refuted. He's strongly and beautifully and strongly
Like
refuted the charges.
when he met Putin and he was like he
Yeah,
said he didn't do it. He said it
it,
very
I
strongly.
can't imagine why he would. That kind of thing. Except for in this case, when it comes to teenage girls, Trump can't say I can't imagine why he would, because this is a man who, when he bought Miss Teen or whatever, was bragging about the fact that he could barge in on girls while they were changing, and according to Noel
I
Castler, it
heard
was
that live.
yeah, yeah,
Like I was
on
listening to Stern when he was on, and I was like,
yeah,
oh boy.
yikes, yeah, exactly. So over the course of the last week, the Matt Gaetz is facing charges, and I think this is one of the reasons why he has doubled down on this. Is the idea is that there are, let's say, you had Hunter Biden's level problems. Let's say you were a former addict who was engaged in illicit sex with adult women. There's a case to be made that you tear the band-aid off and you admit to it and you kind of come clean
Right.
about where, especially if you're trying to right the course of your life, if you're trying to stabilize your life, the admission of that, I believe it's in all the programs in dealing with addiction, and is making somewhat a restitution and being honest, of course, about your failings in those regards. When it comes to the criminal charges related to the possible sex trafficking of a 17-year-old girl, not just, and it was weird that I think in the conversation that started out in the beginning, it was about taking her across state lines, right? This is the story. That did he fly her, or did Joel Greenberg with Matt Gaetz fly her out of state? What they cross state lines. Now they're talking about this trip to the Bahamas, where
What?
that they actually, this is related to a trip to the Bahamas that they took, and that Matt Gaetz, in his, criminal mastermind, Matt Gaetz, on one particular evening after hanging out with said girls, sent $900 via Venmo to Joel Greenberg with tuition for one of the girls. Like, it said hit up, and they leave out the girl's name because there's a question about whether she was underage at the time. Hit up so-and-so, and the next morning, Joel Greenberg uses Venmo to pay 3 different girls $300 a piece. So $900 goes in, $900 goes out, 3 girls on the trip, 3 girls get paid. Joel Greenberg is a pimp, essentially, in this argument, and effectively was providing services for Matt Gaetz, and
my Venmo account is empty.
That's so sad, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not getting this money from anyone.
That's right. Well, I don't know that you want to go on a trip with Matt Gaetz to a private island.
I'm just saying I could probably be sucked into this. I'm not proud.
I'm not.
Oh, wait, how much?
Right. No. Though over the course of this argument, I'm not going anywhere near that. Like I would on my normal daily stream, not on the radio. Just not. No. You're not dragging me into your personal hell. The reality though is that as this story unfolds, Matt Gaetz, we know he knew about the investigation into him. We know he knew when he announced his proposal and his now betrothed status with his fiance. We know he knew that happened then. We know he knew more than likely no later than November of last year, if not earlier. And we know that
when he voted against that bill.
Well, I don't know if he knew about the investigation, but he sure as heck knew about his own Venmo payments and his own trips and his own Apple Pay and Cash App. They were bouncing stuff all over the place. And this lines up.
Did you hear that he was like, he actually started poking around for a potential pardon?
Oh, yeah, that was the thing. He was asking for a blanket pardon for everything, just in case. Just give him a wash, because the left is just going to attack Trump supporters just because Orange Man bad.
They're going to
just
figure out how to make something seem illegal.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do. And just to protect good, red-blooded Americans who supported Donald John Trump, then it would be a good idea if you just give them kind of a get-out-of-jail KMA card that they could drive around to, which, by the way, he's not the first person to float this. There was during Bush-Cheney, there were Republicans foisting the idea that Bush, in pardoning, the John Hughes of the world, if necessary, would give out effectively to Republicans. They joked about a KMA card, a Kiss My card, that you could carry with you that effectively said, I've got a blanket pardon from the president if you get pulled over. You can't look at my trunk. You can't question me about anything. I've got the magic card, like this, and effectively that's the kind of thing you get when you institute an effective royalty in the country. When you got George, Bush Sr. as president, and then his son as president, with this idea that, oh, maybe his kid will become president one day, and this rolling, idea, and the Trump crowd is like, well, we almost jump-started a monarchy with the Bush dynasty. Maybe we can jumpstart a dynasty with the Trump, jumpstart a monarchy with the Trump dynasty. There's a cat in your background. It's adorable.
Yep.
By the way, it's not going to work. It will not work. It'd be mainly not that the creation of a monarchy over time in any country is impossible if you spend decades building it up. Because in watching shows like The Crown and those like this, the idea I used to have about monarchies was that they were the actions of a like power hungry individuals or families taking over tribes and countries internally and saying, we now run the place. God said I run the place. And that it was a wholly top down attack on the individuals in those countries. When in reality, that's not possible without a vast majority of the people below them lifting that particular group up. That it is almost a natural inclination. It's why even in a democracy, we float people like the Kardashians. And to some degree, the Trumps figured that out. That they basically became the fusion, or were looking to become the fusion, until Dad messed the whole plan up by being completely ineffective. And we'll get to that after the break. Yeah, we were going to have a dynasty. That they were planning this whole, like, Ivanka will run, and then maybe Don Jr. is going to run, and that like.
Oh,
and
I've seen the T-shirts. I've literally seen the T-shirt that has all the years planned out.
And it's, I mean, I don't want to. I take that back. I do want to burst their bubble. It's not going to happen. It is not. It will not. It is not. They're going to use this. What the Trumps have realized is that Dad didn't want to win anyways. That it was basically one of these performative publicity stunts running. It's just that the rest of the Republican field was so weak that he actually made it to the top of that pile, and then he coasted in on the power of the Republican Party and the normal switch over between Democrats and Republicans that happens after an 8-year term. That beyond all the anti-Hillary stuff, beyond all the the MAGA support and all that kind of stuff, there was definitely that he rode that switch over. Had this happened midway through, after one round of Obama, he would have lost. It wouldn't have floated, but it works out that way. There's natural tides to these things. Now, they don't always work, and I'm of the belief that 2022 will not favor Republicans the way they think it normally does, largely because of the illusion that he actually won. They are coasting because they still feed into this lie.
Yeah, they really are. They're squandering the let's take this back by not admitting that they lost it.
Exactly. How can you go to fight to win an election that you think is fraudulent to begin with? If you win next time, isn't that indicative that it was a fair process the whole time, and that Biden's been in office for 2 years at this point, and the elections are completely, reasonable, that they are, that you can win, and if you do, every Republican who wins a seat in 2022 has to reconcile that with the fact that Biden will have been in office for 2 years at that point, and the election was fair. That's going to be the hard part for them. If they lose, of course, then they can, so this is the time for the Republican Party to run their losers. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. I want to talk a little bit about, the shifts in life that are coming to the country in terms of, California has already set a date for June 15th as full opening. Based on the vaccination schedule that they have there. And
get my first shot on Tuesday.
Very exciting. We'll talk about that when we come back. It's the House Park Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, or infotainmentwars.com or nudesmax.com, however you would like to get to the same site.
Why do I let that surprise me every time?
Yeah. So, hi chat room. Sorry about I was up and running and all this kind of stuff, and then the software just decided it was going to be a jerk. I think it's hard to say. And yes, I do have very big hair today. It's like it grew an inch. It's like it grew an inch in the last last week. I honestly, Wednesday, I washed my hair, took it out of a towel, and I was like, I think it's like an inch longer from last night. I don't know what's happening. So, I watched an interview with Hunter Biden on Jimmy Kimmel's show, and all I have to say is, damn, he's got a sexy smile. Oh, that's sweet. Well, it's all replaced because he rotted his teeth out, and he had to get them all replaced. So yeah.
Oh, really? Hunter Biden went that far into addiction?
Well, I think he got him capped, and if you get him capped, they grind everything down. So I don't know if it was because he wasn't full meth trailer park mouth, but there's a picture of him before midway through his dental surgery where they've got
coming back in 20 seconds.
Thank you. All of his teeth ground down to little points or something and stuff. So Thank you. And again, thanks again, Hal Vickery. Bless you for that. And everybody who's joining us today, welcome. I don't want to open too many. It's a little flickery already, and I'm not quite sure why.
It is. That's weird.
Yeah.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Megaworldwide.
We're at 12 frames a second right now. It's the animated version right now of the show, which is kind of good. It gives me and it might just be layers of Skype and all kinds of stuff. We're always trying to find a better way to bring you in on the show and still get audio to Chicago. That is the bane of my existence on some levels. That internal mix minus. Oh, mix minus, how dare you? So, over the last, week and a half, and by the way, Matt Gaetz turns up at this Women for Trump event.
I heard about this.
Yesterday, decides to quote Margaret Thatcher, because she's a powerful woman and she's a conservative. The idea is that she's the Iron Lady. She's the female Reagan. He's not the first to do it, but he chooses to use a quote from her that if you want something said, hire a man. If you want something done, hire a woman. Which in his particular circumstance is the single worst quote I think you could possibly come up with. Hire a woman. Really, Matt? Hire a woman. Hire a woman. Okay. Isn't that what you're in trouble for?
Doesn't he have, people to look at these things?
He just hired a crisis PR team, and they, I think, helped him set up his appearance at this thing. Although I don't know that they're dictating to him what he is saying at said event.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not walking him through the language there. They just made available because. And by the way, where was this conservative women's conference? It was at Doral. It was at Trump's property in Miami. Amazing. All I'm saying is, I'm shocked he didn't quote Liz Cheney. So. Ultimately, over the next couple of weeks, this will play out. Everybody's innocent till proven guilty, but it does not look good. Joel Greenberg, who is here's the issue I think that drags most on Matt Gaetz's chances of dodging, and the House has opened an ethics committee investigation into him because let's say he manages to dodge this whole sex trafficking a minor, to either Georgia or the Bahamas or DC or dinner with Tucker Carlson and a woman who turns out wasn't Tucker Carlson's wife, apparently. That's awkward. What? Yeah. Apparently the woman that Tucker Carlson had dinner with, Matt Gaetz, and said woman, other girl, was not, I don't know if that was a woman or girl, so I'm not quite sure how to speak of her in terms of her adult status or lack thereof in terms of who was with Matt Gaetz. But the woman that was with Tucker Carlson may not have been his wife when Matt Gaetz went on his show and said, your wife had dinner with us and you'll know, this, you met her to this other girl. So holy smokes. So the problem that he has is that in the normal world of awfulness that he lives in, whether or not the girl was a minor at the time that they traveled over state lines, he is alleged to have given ecstasy to these women, taken ecstasy with them, had intercourse with multiple prostitutes, and this kind of stuff. Now, ironically, the Freedom Caucus, the Republicans who are like, everybody should be free. You should be free to do whatever. You should be free to walk down the street with a loaded AR-15, fully auto if you want to, because America, and two 60-round magazines duct taped together in case the cops that show up when you decide to rob the bank, you were just walking till the robbery. You were a law-abiding gun owner till you opened up at the mall. That if you decide to go, full auto, you might need another mag that you could just kind of, quick, Jersey style flip and pop. That they believe in that. right? But they have been against, legalizing drugs and prostitution. That not only are they against a woman's right to choose when it comes to, abortion, but they're against her right to choose if she chooses, or male or female. I would argue they're against the legalization of prostitution, and they're against the legalization of recreational drugs. There's been some turns, obviously, since John Boehner, who we will talk about in a little bit, became a marijuana investor and a spokesman for the legalized marijuana and medical marijuana group, which is amazing. One would have thought he would have just gotten a job in Napa with the Red Wine Growers Association, but and literally, I can't play clips from John Boehner on this show from his new audiobook because I would violate FCC rules. So, because when he talks about Ted Cruz, which is fun, but they could have solved this issue for themselves a long time ago, which is move certain drugs out of Schedule A, legalize choice-based behavior. Freedom, man. I just love that, we got to have freedom. Freedom's my word. Freedom, unless you're gay and you want to get married. Freedom for, so the use, it's always freedom in quotes. It's always, freedom TM, right? It's never, exactly. There's always freedom with a list of, dozens of other, reasons, like freedom, except if you want to do this and this and this and this. So meanwhile, while they're running this entire front of family values, while they're running this front of we are the Christian party, that America's a Christian nation based on Judeo-Christian values, while they're running on this entire thing, behind the scenes, they're doing all these things that would be an affront to those very values. And ironically, like we have often discussed with the Lindsey Grahams of the world, if they were comfortable with their own existence and just came out into the light and were, honest about themselves, they would probably be quite welcome on the liberal democratic side of the world. And it would be understood as to why they were, kind of viciously against these rights for a long time, because they were closeted in some form or fashion. And they were constantly fighting in an area of the country or in a party or in a power structure around them that is violently against people of their type, right? So you're kind of like, it must have been terrible for a very long time. But now that you can come out, you can be yourself, and now you don't have to pretend you're basically, in the name of butchness, attack people who have the same inclinations and life that you do, right? So, yeah, I'm dancing around the words on these, but especially when it comes to the Matt Gaetz's argument. So beyond all the was she 17 when they traveled to the Bahamas and all that kind of stuff, and beyond the fact that Joel Greenberg, who's the guy who set up these meetings, these flights, and these travels, and went and was Matt Gaetz called him his wingman. He brought him to the White House. He brought him to the White House. He brought the tax collector for Seminole County to the White House. Like, how many people? Think of all the people you would bring to the White House if you were invited to the White House for like one of 3 big events over a course while you were close to the president. Think of the list. Would they be the Seminole tax collector who hooked you up with? I mean, maybe it would. Maybe it would. At certain times in people's lives, maybe it would. But in the case of Matt Gaetz, it sure was. It absolutely was. And he, this guy is known for, and many of the charges against him are literally for making fake IDs for teenage girls so that he can travel them across state lines. So Matt's defense that they were all adults, or that he wasn't, this story that she was 17 is completely false, and all that stuff. Yikes. I got bad news for you, Matt. Your running buddy is literally going down for stealing state IDs, shaving the hologram off the front of them, and making fake IDs for underage women so that he could travel them not only for himself, but for people like Matt Gaetz, for people like other unnamed Florida representatives. So this argument that they were of legal age, he went to the tax collector's office, and got an ID that this dude made for him. He knew this guy made fake IDs. They talked about it. So the idea that you'll come out and go, all these women were of age, as far as I knew, which is going to be, watch that for the next fallback. Over the next, we're going to watch this, obviously play out, but it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And the charge, again, if it was just the House Ethics Committee that was after him, which is run by Democrats because they control the House right now, and if it was just adult prostitutes and drugs and that kind of stuff, they could run a whole, they're going after me, double standard, they don't know, these actually are relationships I had, I didn't use drugs, I can, if somebody else did where I was, people have argued for other people that he could play fast and loose with it. You could arguably hide from it a little bit and let it carry out and just say it's politics. But because of the egregiousness of the charge that's against him, as far as this girl being underage, his only defense is to come out, swinging in theory, because he can't just disappear at this point. He put himself in traffic. And so he, because of all the speeding cars, he has no choice but to make a big spectacle of himself to keep from getting run over. That's what's happening. I know
you don't condone violence, but is there a more punchable face?
Nope. No. I don't need to punch this dude. I need to sit back with a bowl of popcorn and watch the legal system drag this whole thing out and make it and have his dad pay his legal fees. And let's talk about the conspiracy when we come back, because a lot of people are like, it's a conspiracy against him, he's being extorted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the extortion.
Oh, the extortion part of it is hilarious. We'll be back right after this. The fact that they call it extortion is just pitiful.
And did you cover last week the whole thing where he's like, as a matter of fact, my dad's wearing a wire, and everybody said, if your dad was wearing a wire, you just ruined an entire investigation by outing it in public.
Yep. Like the whole thing is gorgeous. It's just beautiful to watch it play out. It's just I'm so excited to see this work its way through the system. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Is that you?
Each year, Americans waste $21 billion.
I was like, what is that? I was like, that's CNN Politics, their video autoplay.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You bastards. So, I need it's getting too warm in here for my computer, so it's cooking.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So, I'll have to figure something out.
Is your house in the desert?
You'd think. So yes, it is. It's quite. It just needs another little fan. Like I need to plop another little fan on top of it, or a heat sink that I can just pull heat out of it. But yeah. So yeah, the extortion story is super fun.
This is Doris Davenport, host of The Doris Davenport Show, all local, all the time. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So over the course of the last week, what was the real story going on with Matt Gaetz? What does he have to deal with in terms of this craziness? That it was really not, this whole thing doesn't have anything to do with the fact that he personally hung out with and brought to the White House and traveled multiple times with this obvious pimp who was scoring underage girls and kind of being this low rent Jeffrey Epstein. Literally, Joel Greenberg is like seeking to be like the C-class Jeffrey Epstein. He doesn't have a private island, but he does have a resort they can go to where people will look the other way. He doesn't have access to like a high school nearby like Ghislaine Maxwell and her recruits, but he does have access, because of these, conservative gatherings to the daughters and friends of other Republicans in the area. It's gross. So, yeah. So Gaetz comes out and he says, my dad is being extorted for $25 million.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And this whole thing is just to get money out of my family. So he comes out and he says this on Tucker Carlson. He name drops the dude, this guy McGee, who works for a law firm, who was a former guy named David McGee. And David McGee represents a guy named the family of Robert Levinson. Robert Levinson is a FBI investigator turned PI guy who got caught as a spy in Iran and was in jail. And people, the official theory is that he's dead. He's been dead for a couple of years. In the middle of the Trump administration, the word they got back is there's no trade to be had. The dude is dead. He's been dead. But the family has been paying these lawyers to find anybody that can arrange. They got money, so they're trying to find a way to. They believe he's still alive, so they want to get this guy Levinson back. So they're going around because Levinson is from Gaetz's district. He's a Florida resident. This is not rando. This is not that this guy Levinson is from Arizona and they're just trying to, crowbar any, MAGA level Republicans that, that they think have a chip on their shoulder about Iran to get money out, right? So over the last, few months, for years, these folks have been trying to get this guy out. And they've been going around to basically deep-pocketed Republicans and saying, hey, help us. The reward is $25 million for the return of this dude. You help us get him back. We need $25 million because that's what's going to cost. We think we can pay the right people. We pay this person $5 million, this person $2 million, and this tribe of people, $3 million. And we can get in there with some mercenaries or somebody, or we can pay them to sneak him out of jail where they're holding him, and we can get him out of the country for $25 million. Because, Iran is in real trouble because of COVID and because of money. The idea that you can use graft to get him out is a real possibility. And it's going to cost us about $25 million. The legal team is basically like, look, it's going to cost us $25 million. There's a reward of $25 million to get him back. So that kind of evens out. You loan it to us, basically an interest-free loan. And then you get the publicity of having rescued this dude. And they've done this with several people. They've gone to several people trying to make this happen. The problem is that they run into a lot of Republicans who are related to this, and a lot of them, because the Republicans have had control of the House and the Senate, know the guy is dead. They've been to the intel meetings. They have more information than the Levinson family lawyers, at least in their opinion. The Levinson family lawyers, McGee and all these folks in Florida, they do believe, they think it's a lie. They think, the intelligence community is wrong about this. They think they can get him back. They've got this plan. So there's these two, parallel tracks. The government officially trying to get this guy back, and then on the private level, this family and everybody involved trying to extract this dude. So they go to, they get word of, because one of these guys, David McGee, was at the DOJ, and he knows about this investigation. He didn't start this investigation in an attempt to extort, money out of Matt Gaetz and his dad, right? He didn't. He knows it exists. He comes to the family and he goes, look, your son's in for a heap of trouble because I got a peeky poo at some of the paperwork that the bar people sat on for as long as they could. But this stuff is gnarly, and he's going to need a huge publicity push to fight back against this stuff. And we think we have a great idea. you help us pay to get this guy out. And you'll get your money back. Give us $25 million. We'll give you your $25 million back when we get the reward, and we'll get the legal fees from the family. That's how we get paid. And we'll have got this guy back. And what we'll do for you is we'll get Matt Gaetz on the plane when we fly this guy home. Matt Gaetz will land on American soil with a rescued American from Iran, and Biden will maybe even pardon him because of, it'll look like an attack. Like, this is what they were talking about. This is literally what they floated with Don Gaetz, with Matt Gaetz' dad. And they were ready to sign off on it. They were like, oh, yeah, actually, that sounds like a plan. We'll do it in installments. So we're going to do it in $5 million. We'll pay this guy, and then we'll pay this person, and then we'll guarantee this money, and on and on. That is not extortion. It's not. It would be extortion if they knew of the investigation because they caused it. They started the investigation while they were there and said, we're going to make up a fake investigation, or we're going to extort evidence out of somebody, or blackmail, effectively. The variance between this, blackmail versus extortion. The idea is, I guess, extortion is, it's blackmail if they have real evidence. It would be extortion if they don't. That's why they chose it. That's why they're saying extortion instead of saying blackmail, just for the record. Because blackmail is real evidence. Extortion might, I don't know, maybe they'll beat me up, right? There's the whole other side of extortion. So Matt Gaetz is making this argument that they are forcing him. And the Washington Examiner, let Matt put out an opinion piece to cover for himself. And then, according to them, it says Matt Gaetz possesses text message screenshots, an email, and a typed document that purportedly support his claims that a, quote, federal investigation into his relationship with 17-year-olds related to an extortion scheme against him. On Tuesday, the New York Times reported the Justice Department is investigating whether Gaetz had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old. Gaetz told Axios that his lawyers told him that he was not a target, but a subject of an investigation regarding sexual conduct with women. Because the target is Joel Greenberg. He's a subject because Joel Greenberg is starting to talk. He's not a target yet because they are gathering steam. You know what I mean? It's the whole, like, I'm not a suspect, I'm a person of interest. That sounds great. The Florida Republican countered the report on Twitter in statements to Axios and Fox, claimed that his family is being extorted for $25 million, and that the people pushing stories about an investigation into his relationship with women are the people extorting him and the subjects of an FBI extortion investigation over the last few weeks. The documents in Gaetz' possession detail an alleged scheme. They've seen them, by the way, and they're still calling them alleged scheme, which is hilarious, that revolves around attempts by a former Air Force intelligence officer, Bob Kent, and Beggs and Lane attorney, David McGee, a former federal prosecutor, to free FBI agent turned private investigator Robert Levinson from imprisonment in Iran. He went missing in 2007. They talk about that. Screenshots provided to the Washington Examiner show a message that his father, Don Gaetz, a former Florida State Senate president, who said he received on March 16. The message proposes a plan that can make Gaetz' future legal and political problems go away. Okay, so this is the what Don got from it. Mr. Gaetz, I would like to talk to you immediately about the current federal investigation and the indictment that is about to be filed against your son. I have a plan that can make his future legal and political problems go away. Last summer, we located Robert Levinson in Iran and took 2 proof-of-life photos, but the U.S. government foiled our rescue attempt. Last summer, by the way. Let's just put a pin in the idea that during the Trump years, like, people connected to Florida Republicans had 2 proof-of-life photos of an FBI agent, an American citizen in imprisonment in Iran, and the government foiled under the Trump administration, blew it off, or refused to act on it. We have one more opportunity to rescue Levinson. If you and Matt are willing to help us privately and clandestinely obtain the release of Robert Levinson, I will assure you, and let's see. And then he doesn't show the rest of it. That's weird. I will ensure. Why would you show the rest? What were you going to ensure? that the charges against him, or that the evidence that he had a 17-year-old girl on a trip with him can disappear, or that somebody won't move on it, or a friend of mine will set fire to the box of stuff. Right? Why wouldn't you show the rest of that? Why would you not provide what they're going to ensure?
Right.
If you're proving that they and then he got a document called Project Homecoming. Project Homecoming was in the Project Homecoming document. Let's see. Kent then asked that they would loan him money. The money would be deposited in a trust account of Beggs and Lane, naming David McGee, and it would go in March 19th. The Project Homecoming document is under investigation by the FBI for various public corruption and public integrity issues. And alleges the FBI is aware of photos depicting Gaetz in, quote, a sexual orgy with underage prostitutes. Now, last week, notice the inclusion of an S after underage prostitutes.
Yeah.
Now, put aside the fact that minors cannot be prostitutes. Okay? Prostitution is an adult engaged in endeavor. When a child is involved, that's not prostitution. That's, at best, the phrase for it is child sex trafficking. I would argue that the phrase for them would be trafficked victims because they're minors. But Project Homecoming, they have it in the Washington Examiner printed out. The facts of Project Homecoming as described below. Congressman Matt Gaetz is currently under investigation by the FBI for various public corruption and public integrity issues. The investigation is being handled by the Public Integrity Division of the Department of Justice and being managed out of the Washington, D.C. field office. The Office of the U.S. Attorney from the Middle District of Florida is overseeing the potential criminal case. The FBI became aware of compromising... Listen to this. The FBI... Oh, no, wait. We got to take a break.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We got to take a break, and then we'll come back. That's my tease for it. The FBI became aware of compromising pictures. Stick around. We'll be back right after the break. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Dude, this is just awful. Like this is him. This is the stuff he gave to the Examiner. I'm gonna share it with you real quick. I'll send you the link. Where's the? Let's see, chat. There it is. You've been chatting.
Skype.
Yeah. So I'll send it via that. There you go. And then see it. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the Washington Examiner story, and chat room, I'll post it on my Twitter feed after this because I don't normally post Washington Examiner stories because, quite frankly, they're the ones, for those that don't know, the Washington Examiner is who paid for the Steele dossier initially. Hold on, somebody was asking about the Venmo, so I'm going to put it on the screen. So thank you, and thank you guys for asking for it. Oh, not that big. That's crazy talk. Yay. Okay. Where do we put it? I don't put it over here. I just don't want to block out your name. John a Million, ready to go. John a Million and a thing. Anyway, hope it do.
Back in 20.
Thank you. This, this is one of those dude stop digging moments.
Right.
So, ugh. Let's see if I can.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So on the Washington Examiner's site, and in their article about the Gaetz thing, has material that were provided by Matt Gaetz in his defense, with the idea that none of this stuff is true. You're supposed to assume that none of the stuff he is being quote-unquote extorted for, which I would argue is actually blackmail soft edge blackmail, and an offer of favors, quite frankly. More than blackmail. The worst description would be blackmail. The best description is a Republican is just offering an opportunity. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I can make a real problem you have that I have no stake in. Like, this guy doesn't have a problem. Understand, there's no good guy in this. The David McGee and all the people at this law firm, they're not good people. They're willing to help get rid of what they believe are legit charges against Matt Gaetz. Help them go away somehow internally. And I guess it's only because the criminal part of it is happening in Florida that they maybe feel like they have some kind of claw in this that they could help. Mm-hmm. But also in the PR front that he's going to have this. You're going to fly back with this with Levinson as he's brought back from Iran. You're a national hero. You're Charles Lindbergh, right? So the FBI. This is part of the letter that they sent him a letter called Project Homecoming, which, by the way, they typed up, provided to him, and gave him personally, which is not something you do if, I suppose, you think it should. If it hits the light of day, it hurts you. You obviously think if it hits, you're giving it to the person who, if it sees the light of day, hurts them, right? So the FBI became aware of compromising pictures depicting, quote, Congressman Gaetz and an election official involved in a sexual orgy with underage prostitutes, that's in quotes, in Maitland, Florida, during an unrelated investigation into political corruption and public integrity into another criminal case. So they got somebody's phone. They got Joel Greenberg's phone, basically. Subsequent information has resulted in Congressman Gaetz becoming a target of widening investigation into serious underage sex trafficking, political corruption, public integrity, and other criminal allegations against Congressman Gaetz and others. A grand jury has been impaneled in the Middle District of Florida to determine whether criminal charges shall be brought against Congressman Gaetz and others. It has been confirmed that at least one underage female has testified, not formerly underage, now of age, currently underage, according to this document. Female has testified to the grand jury that Congressman Gaetz has paid her to engage in sexual activities. It has also been confirmed that other individuals whom are facing serious criminal allegations against themselves have testified at the grand jury, namely Joel Greenberg, possibly others, and have agreed to testify against Congressman Gaetz at any future criminal proceedings. Our strategy, okay, here comes the extortion, right? Remember, Matt Gaetz has been on record saying this is extortion. This is they're attempting to extort money out of his family and bleed them dry. Our strategy for Congressman Gaetz to mitigate his legal and political troubles would be for him or someone else to arrange for the funds required to obtain the immediate release of Robert Levinson from captivity in Iran. Robert Levinson has been a political prisoner for the past 14 years. In exchange for the funds being arranged, and by the way, arranged, not necessarily that they would come from his dad. According to this document, they don't have to be the source. Matt just needs to go find the cash, get it from an appropriations committee. Go into one of his committees, possibly, and say, we need money, I've got proof of life photos, let's get this guy home. Which is arguably the primary way you would want him to do it if you're these lawyers, right? You want him to go in and get the money, more than you need, which is what you would get if you could convince them that you need $25 million in an appropriation committee to bring this guy home. You could commit 35 to 50 or 25 minimum with a 50 cap on making sure this happens and yada yada, right? So in exchange for the funds being arranged, and upon the release of Mr. Levinson, Congressman Gaetz shall be given credit for facilitating the release of Mr. Levinson. Congressman Gaetz shall also be on the plane that returns Mr. Levinson to freedom and shall be the person to, quote, reunite, and that's in quotes, Mr. Levinson with his family and bring Mr. Levinson back to the United States. They are basically presenting to him because they know he is screwed. They know this is a mess.
This is like a movie.
It totally is. It is old-fashioned, plain-level graft. That they have said to this dude, like, look, we know you're in a ton of trouble. If you can help us find the money to get this guy back, then we'll get you on the plane. You'll get all the credit, and you'll have this huge PR win, and it'll be really hard to go after you politically because you're a national hero. That's what they're offering. That's not extortion. They're going to a dude they know to be in trouble. Somebody in the chat called him a trophy hostage. This is exactly what it is. And so his dad thought it was a good enough plan that he was getting ready to go forward with it. But Matt knows, because he's probably on one of these committees that has heard some of this stuff, that the dude's actually dead and it won't work out and there won't be a return to the guy. And you can pay these guys $25 million, but there's no Robert Levinson to bring back.
Right.
So Matt Gaetz decides to make lemonade and present this, as if it's an extortion scheme. Instead of these guys and basically pony up these other corrupt Florida guys in exchange for himself. Use it as cover. I mean, from a strategic standpoint, if he knows, genuinely, if he knows that this guy isn't coming home, then this whole homecoming plan would never work anyways.
Right.
So he knows he's screwed. So what's your fallback then in that circumstance? If you pay $25 million, you're never going to be the guy that brought this guy home. So what do? You tell everybody these guys tried to, extort money out of you, and by calling it an extortion scheme, you give the illusion that the investigation into you is false, that it was planted by these people, that they put this evidence there, that it's all fake. Instead of, we're not blackmailing you, we're offering you a huge PR win to lay ground cover.
Yeah, it's a way out.
And these guys aren't good guys in this. Everyone involved in this whole story is disgusting. Because the David McGee's of the world and the lawyers at this firm are basically saying, yeah, we know there's some pictures of your son with underage prostitutes. That's their quote. But we can make it vanish by just overwhelming good PR if you'll help us, make good on our promise to the Levinson family. So we don't care about these underage girls. We don't care what he's doing. We don't care that he's giving them drugs. We don't care that he and his buddy were flying them out of the country allegedly with fake IDs. We don't care about any of that. As a matter of fact, we'd love to help you make it go away, because we're making money from the Levinson family and the reward money that's going to come from that. So he posts this. I don't know why he provided this, thinking this would help.
Do you think those are his fingernails?
In the picture?
Yeah.
No, they don't look manicured. They just look cut.
Okay.
It's somebody from there. Somebody was allowed to take a picture of it, so they put it on the table,
okay.
And you can see, Department of Justice. There's another. This is from the U.S. Attorney General Counsel R.E. Gaetz that was sent. It says, Counsel, I can confirm that your client is working with my office as well as the FBI at the government's request in order to determine if a federal crime has been committed. This has been discussed with and approved by the FBI as well as the leadership of my office and components of Maine Justice. The government thanks you for working cooperatively with the FBI. This is the whole, he sent it to Jeffrey Newman and CC'd it to Robert Davies. And the idea is that I guess they got a friendly in the Northern District of Florida to say, yeah, his dad wore a wire. The problem is, when he wore the wire, they didn't find a crime. The reason he said, oh, the whole thing fell apart because the New York Times dropped this story and the entire extortion scheme went away, and I would love to see they must release the tapes of the extortion thing. The reason is the investigation isn't going forward. And the reason the investigation isn't going forward is because these dudes offered favors, maybe, And that's why they were saying public corruption, not extortion, not blackmail.
Oopsies.
The conversation, Matt Gaetz, when he was on Tucker, said they questioned this girl I brought to dinner with you and a woman who turned out not to be Tucker Carlson's wife after all, that for this pay-to-play scheme, right? Remember he brought up this pay-to-play scheme.
Mm-hmm.
That's this. That's these guys. During the Trump years saying, we'll help you get rid of this if you'll pay for this thing. If you can arrange money for this thing, we'll make your legal troubles go away. This is just run-of-the-mill internal conspiracy to commit fraud within the government. I'll make your criminal proceeding go away if you do my client a favor. This is not an extortion scheme. This is not blackmail. This is effectively a form of like bribery and just simple graft. We got to take a break. It's time for for the news. Ironically enough, we'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Tonight is Sexy Liberal 10, the Sexy Liberal 10th anniversary. Virtually, go to sexyliberal.com/tour for tickets. We sold out the VIP, but you can't sell out the rest of it because it's digital. So there's always tickets available. And I'm very proud of the pieces. I'm going to show Johnny one of them after the show's over today.
Yay.
I'm very proud of it. Tucker was mad. Oh, and Tucker has reason to be mad. Because I don't think that was Tucker's wife. We'll be back right after this. Sorry about the music. His father wore a wire in order to assist with the case. The 17-year-old in question, quote, doesn't exist, Gaetz said, adding that he has, quote, not had a relationship with a 17-year-old. Yeah, relationship wasn't the question, bruh. First of all, you're a grown man. You can't have a relationship with a 17-year-old. In those terms, dude, nobody's accusing you of a lovely Valentine's Day and a series of personal commitments leading to, children and a house together in the country. Nobody said relationship, dude. And, oh my God, the parsing of the language, it's so hard not to, because he's a lawyer and he knows this. And so you have to look at what he says and how he says it and understand it in context, right? That he says he didn't have a relationship with a 17-year-old. When the accusation is that you paid a 17-year-old for sex, not that you had a relationship. And then his legal team or his office puts out a statement, Matt Gaetz has never paid women for sex. Well, these aren't women. Dummy, you're not accused of paying women for sex necessarily. You're accused of paying girls. You're accused of paying a pimp that pays girls for sex. What are you talking about? You slingshot it through Joel Greenberg's Venmo? That means you didn't pay for it? Jesus. Yeah, right, Albuquerque. I didn't have a relationship with that prostitute in Tijuana. Yeah, exactly. There's no relationship there, whatever. There was no flowers exchanged. Yes, these are minor children. He didn't pay women for sex. That's another conversation. Maybe you just flew them there to trade favors, right? Did you just send me a link in there as well? Mm-mm. Okay, that just popped up in the thing, so it went that thing went through in the chat. So just ick. But this is the stuff he provided to them. Read full documents. Matt Gaetz says oh God. Read full documents. Matt Gaetz says backup extortion claim. Oh, here it is. I will ensure that Matt is on the plane that delivers Levinson to his family. Thus. Then my partner will see to it that Matt receives a presidential pardon, thus alleviating all his legal issues. There's no date on these. Tuesday, 11:02 a.m., but not the date. That's really curious. And apparently Don Gaetz needs to charge his phone. Hold on.
Every time I see a screenshot, if the battery is like below 15, I get really angsty.
Yeah, it's just terrible. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to send you another link. Hold on. That's the full document.
Ooh, read.
Yeah.
Full documents, Matt.
I don't know why this dude thinks it's helping. This is not extortion. It's not. Criminy.
Charge your battery, Don.
Yeah. That's just gnarly. This is what I used to have to do in my old studio because of the heat would build up and my computer would start to overheat.
Coming back in 20.
Thanks, and get choppy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what caused it. It's cooking now. This might be its last legs. I tried to get it back online. Thank you, Chicago. Yeah, I mean it died full on, and then I had to install new RAM and all kinds of stuff. Otherwise, it was going to croak. And so I squeezed as much life out of it as I could.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Megaworldwide.
I was having a hard time when I was editing bits for the Second Liberal this time too. It was like,
oh yeah.
For you for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
I was wrong. I just want to start out by saying I was wrong. I think it's important that I say I was wrong. In the Washington Examiner story where they say they posted one of the text things, I was like, why wouldn't you continue posting the Examiner? Well, the Washington Examiner provided a link to the other documents, and I could not be happier to be wrong. Because this, again, the continued documentation, I'm going to post this on my Twitter feed as well, at Hal Sparks on Twitter, so you guys can get a good look at it yourself. But those, first of all, the texts that Don Gaetz got from David McGee, this lawyer at this firm in Florida who's trying to get this guy Robert Levinson out of Iran when everyone else thinks he's dead. The end of what they posted on there ended with "I will ensure," stopped with what they said they will ensure, which, by the way, from the pro Matt Gaetz Washington Examiner point of view, if you don't notice the link that says here's all the documents, if you just kind of breeze past it because you're used to just breezing past those, also read this other story ones, and you just kind of blow those things off, you wouldn't notice necessarily that more of the documents are provided on a whole other page. Now it's digital. I don't know why you wouldn't just put it on the same page. Do you? Can you? What are you going to do? Run out of digital space? I don't understand. So over the course of this, he goes, "I will ensure," it was where we left it off. The next text continues. Along with that, by the way, the printout of Project Homecoming. "I will ensure that Matt is on the plane that delivers Levinson to his family, and thus," oh, I love this, "thus making him the most sought-after public figure in the world for his effort." Yes. I'm not kidding. Thus making him the most sought-after public figure in the world for his efforts to obtain Levinson's release. Then my partner will see to it that Matt receives a presidential pardon and some rice-a-roni. Thus alleviating that, I added that. Thus alleviating all his legal issues. Why would you need a pardon against a fake case? Why would you offer that the guy could provide you with a pardon if the stuff isn't real? If the evidence isn't there, what the hell do you need a pardon for?
It's their playbook. They want it both ways every single time.
Absolutely. We all know
Biden's horrible. Biden's not president.
Right.
Which is it?
Yeah. We all know, listen to this post-amble. We all know that politics makes strange bedfellows.
Oh,
bad choice
God.
of words. Dude, don't use strange bedfellows in a series of texts that relate to, all right, underage women being trafficked, like girls being trafficked. I can assure you that we have the ability to obtain Robert Levinson's release immediately, but we cannot allow the U.S. government to be involved because they have repeatedly blocked his release since his capture. This is, and there's a chunk of it missing, which I also think is curious. This is a gentleman who lives something, blah, blah, blah. Robert Levinson's heart is failing, and if we are going to obtain his release, it must be done immediately. Matt is more than welcome to attend the meeting, but we are fine just to meet with you, as my partner knows you are a man of your word and has a great deal of respect for you. Please call me and let me know if you're willing to meet with us immediately. I assure you that you will not be wasting your time. Bob Kent, who's the other lawyer guy at who's at Justice. And then they provide the Project Homecoming document. The first page has the fingers on it. There's only 2 fingers on page 2. This is the continuation of that thing. The team that delivers Mr. Levinson, to the President of the United States shall strongly advocate that President Biden issue a presidential pardon or instruct the Department of Justice to terminate any and all investigations into Congressman Gaetz. Again,
I don't care how many kids this guy F's. Look at what he did.
Yeah, the team has been assured by the president that he will strongly consider The team has been assured by the president that he will strongly consider such matters because he considers the release of Robert Levinson a matter of national urgency. Well, what the hell does he need you for? Either the government is continually blocking the release of Robert Levinson or they aren't. All right, the team is highly confident that the president will indeed hail Congressman Gaetz as a national hero. And Congressman Gaetz' national and international profile shall be greatly enhanced.
Can you imagine reviewing this, being the editor going, I don't think this is hyperbolic enough.
Really? Yeah, guys, it needs more smoke. Will be greatly enhanced by his key assistance to the release of Robert Levinson. Robert Levinson's release has been privately negotiated by certain United States and Mexican individuals, and the cost associated with facilitating Robert Levinson's release is $25 million. A 6-month, $25 million loan. Who extorts a loan for 6 months? All right. Is sought to immediately fund the release of Robert Levinson. The loan shall be repaid from the $25 million reward offered by the United States government for the release of Robert Levinson.
How handy.
How do you extort money you're going to give back? I don't... Look, what is being extorted? What is the thing of value that they are getting from Don Gaetz and Matt? That we get to sit on your 25 mil for, Yeah, all right. So, how are you extorting money? A loan. All right. The loan listen to this. The loan proceeds shall be deposited in the trust account of Beggs and Lane RLLP, a 501 Comencia Street of 501 Comendencia Street, Pensacola, Florida. Attention, David L. McGee, Esquire. Mr. McGee shall be instructed that the fund shall be used at the sole discretion of his client without limitation of amount and use, whether it be personal or business, and that his client shall have no requirement to document how the funds were used because they don't. I mean, some of these people in Mexico are sketchy, and they're obviously dealing with drugs and opium trafficking and that kind of stuff. So they're doing an old-fashioned CIA, crack for arms, Iran deal redux, right? It's basically, again, like Joel Greenberg is a C-list Jeffrey Epstein. These guys are C-list Iran-Contra, right? That's what they're trying to do. The loan shall require no interest payment. That's the extortion. 6 months. You're not even getting interest on that? What's up? As long as Congressman Gaetz' legal matters are resolved to his satisfaction. So either you give us $25 million. We either fix his legal problems and they go away, or we pay you interest. I mean, has there ever been a more vicious extortion scheme that you've ever heard of in your life? Why does this idiot think it helps to provide this document? Seriously, hold on one second. I want to show people on the chat, like as we talk about this stuff, this document real quick. This is the document that I'm reading from. Sorry, Johnny, I'm covering your face temporarily while I post this online. And this is, I'll provide the link to this whole document.
I should be eating yogurt right now.
That's right. Honestly, a slurping sound behind this would make it really awful.
No, that'd be horrible.
That's the only thing that could make this worse. Okay, Congressman Gaetz or his designee shall be kept apprised of the progress of Mr. Levinson's release, but Congressman Gaetz, his agents, his heirs, and his designees shall agree to remain completely silent as to the information received about the progress of Mr. Levinson's release. So until we get him out, don't say anything, because obviously you could blow it. And by the way, they blew it. If the guy is alive, let's just say for a second that these people are just desperately trying to get this guy out alive, that by saying my dad wore a wire and this was an extortion scheme, Matt Gaetz just killed Robert Levinson.
Yeah.
That's the other awful that's presented here. In an effort to cover his own butt and protect himself from this, these charges, which he will be unsuccessful in doing, he, according to these guys, let this guy die. It shall be expressly agreed in writing that Congressman Gaetz and or his designees shall not disclose any information about the nature of the release project during or after the project's completion and subsequent to Mr. Levinson's release. So don't talk about how we arranged this. I don't know why you would, since it was all, graft. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It shall never be made public that Congressman Gaetz or his representatives or associates assisted in funding the release project. Assisted in funding it. They got their money back, of course, because it would sound it would kind of undermine that whole national hero thing if you just loaned them money and you got it back and it was really just a cover for your criminal endeavors.
Oh,
right.
Please.
Good God, man. Why would you give this to anyone? Why? How are you this bad a liar? You're a Republican. Time is of the essence. In the matter of Robert Levinson's release, due to Mr. Levinson's health issues and deteriorating medical condition, please understand that this is a one-time offer and requires immediate attention and an immediate decision of acceptance or rejection. Well, if they reject it, what are they not going to do for you in this extortion scheme? Yeah, just not run interference for you? Amazing. There's more. We'll be back right after this. Matt Gaetz is done. This is the first time I'm seeing this whole document. Like, I knew about, you guys know, when this first came out, I think I'm the only person who described the extortion scheme that they kept calling it in detail. I don't know why anybody else was going, yeah, he's saying he's getting extorted. No. You have to go into the details to recognize not only is he not being extorted, but he's using this fake extortion scheme idea in his own head to cover for himself. We'll be back. And so they send, they basically, and his defense against this is his lawyer sending documents, which your lawyer, you can, as long as they don't know you're in the process of committing a crime, they don't have to do anything. But you have your lawyer can say anything on your behalf in your defense in public or in the courtroom. So what his lawyer says about this circumstance, in terms of the depth or reality of this whole thing, is meaningless. Of course he's lying. It's his lawyer. It's Don Gaetz' lawyer, and and therefore Matt Gaetz' lawyer. Holy hell!
Is Don on the phone?
Yeah, dude. This stuff is just brutal. Look down at if you're looking at it, look at the emails from lawyer for Don Gaetz to Department of Justice officials appearing to confirm an FBI investigation. Well, no shit. I'm not on the air right now. It's a commercial, so. No, yeah. We know there's an investigation. That just means that they know there's a real investigation. I don't understand how he thinks this helps. This is the dumbest.
Back in 20.
He played 3D chess with jelly. Thank you. Yeah, it is currently illegal to deal with Iran. It's also currently illegal to deal with drug dealers who are bringing opiates to the U.S. Because that's who's involved in this.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Folks, I thought, like a lot of you thought, that we'll touch on the Matt Gaetz stuff today, you know. But by God, you know, how do you, in his case, how do you look at this stuff? And I don't know how you give it to. Why would you post this stuff? Why would you publish this stuff? Why would you give this to a newspaper and think it defends you? Now, along with the Project Homecoming document and the text messages that they got, which is an offer of a quid pro quo. It is not extortion. It is an offer of a political favor to make a legitimate investigation into Matt Gaetz go away. They don't say how, other than by the publicity dwarfing it. Because if you bring Levinson home, you're a national hero. You're Charles Lindbergh. You know. That's from Joe versus the Volcano, by the way. For anybody who doesn't know all my quotes. Yes, I do too. So what do they give? They give. What does Matt Gaetz give to the Washington Examiner? The original, by the way, financiers behind the Steele dossier. Which when Trump actually got the nomination, the Washington Examiner decided not to use. They were going to originally use it to run interference to protect Jeb Bush and other Republicans from him. And then once it looked like he was going to run away with it, they didn't dare. So they sold it. They took it and they sold it to the, Fusion GPS sold it to the Hillary Clinton campaign. They looked at, and the DNC, and they said, we can't use this. It's gross. We think we're going to win anyways. We don't need to put this stuff out. This is like gutterball politics, and we don't need it. Everybody knows he's a scumbag. Like he literally a video of him on Access Hollywood came out before the election. Why would we need to go to allegations of this, that prostitutes peeing on beds in Moscow from this, and then Steele goes to the FBI and goes, you don't understand, there's financial crimes in here. This dude's a criminal. He's dangerous. He's in league with the Russian mob. And that's where he went to John McCain. He's like, Hillary's not running with this stuff. Somebody needs to look into this. And McCain, because of his feelings about being a Republican, wanting the Republican Party to survive, was a good person to bring it to the FBI. And again, the hell with Carter Page. We'll deal with that again on another date. He's a courier. He's a paperman. He's a paperboy. You don't discuss things with Carter Page. You give him an envelope. He flies to Russia on a free trip. He hangs out for 2 days, and he comes back with another envelope that he's dumb enough never to look in. So Don Gaetz. So what evidence does Matt Gaetz provide to the Washington Examiner that there's an extortion scheme against him? Well, text messages and a document that say the exact same thing that proves, if you read them, that there is no extortion scheme, that it was a request for a loan that would get paid back with interest if they couldn't do what they were allegedly extorting from. What are you talking about? This drives me nuts. I don't know how you can. All right. So Don Gaetz' lawyer sends an email to the DOJ, and it says, this is from a guy named Jeffrey Neiman who represents Don Gaetz. David Goldberg, who's he's the U.S. Attorney for Florida Northern District, okay? And in it he goes, David, as you know, my client Don Gaetz, because you're buddies, was approached by two individuals to make a sizable payment. He'd already called him, so he sent this letter afterwards because he wants a chain of evidence that they had this communication. And why don't you say it over the phone if it's a secret investigation and you're trying to help the FBI? Why would you put it in writing like this? You see what I'm saying? To make a sizable payment in what I would call a scheme to defraud. What I would call, because I'm acting in my client's best interests, and scheme to defraud. Don reported this to the FBI. The FBI is now asking Don to voluntarily and proactively assist in their investigation, which Don is willing to do. Please confirm that your office and the FBI would like Don's assistance in this matter, and that he will be working at the government's request. Okay, so he sent that to David Goldberg. David, that's the one they responded back. Counsel, I can confirm that your client is working with my office as well as the FBI at the government's request in order to determine if a federal crime has been committed. This has been discussed. This has been discussed with and approved by the FBI as well as the leadership of my office and components of Maine Justice. The government thanks you for working cooperatively with the FBI. And then there's a business card that this dude gave out that he has, that was given to him. This guy, Stephen Alford, that has like this watercolor thing from Captum Consultants LLC. That's the evidence that Matt Gaetz provided. None of this. So what do we have here? We have two instances, both in text and in a written document that they sent to him, that they handed. It's folded. It's not an email. This is a folded document. This was given by hand to Don Gaetz from these folks, or by a courier to him in paper form. So obviously these guys aren't afraid of typing up their request, knowing full well that the only person that gets hurt by this, if people actually read the damn thing, is Don Gaetz and Matt Gaetz. Because, and then basically, then Don Gaetz, who's a former state representative and is all gnarled up in the healthcare industry in Florida, and his son is a sitting congressman, sends a friendly letter to a buddy in the Florida Justice Department, in the Attorney General's office, and basically gets a favor in return. Dude, can you send, remember what we talked about on the phone? Can you send me a letter that says, yeah, he's working with the FBI, but I can't say whether they're wiring him up and stuff. Yeah, you don't have to say that. Just say that they're working to see if a crime has been committed. That's enough. Okay, because that's all I can legally say. That's it. These are two buddies in Florida politics writing each other a letter about the allegation that two buddies in Florida politics are engaged in a quid pro quo. That the only reason, and Don Gaetz was willing to pay for it. He was starting the process before the FBI got involved. Lord Almighty. I don't understand. I mean, I understand Matt Gaetz is dumb, right? I get it. But it is horrifying how lazy and I mean, you want to talk about like privilege. You want to talk about how arrogant do you have to believe that this actually would work? That anybody reading these documents would go, oh yeah, he's totally being extorted. This is terrible. This is, oh my God.
They're just counting on people not reading the documents?
Yeah. Unfortunately, they weren't counting on me. Because I'm the kind of guy who wants to know, if you say something like extortion, that's sexy, man. That's exciting. That's a Netflix series waiting to happen. The extortion of a sitting congressman and his politically connected dad in Florida politics over an Iranian hostage that would go through Mexican drug cartels to like pay off people to get a loan temporarily, and if they did it, they think they can. They are arguing that they have talked to Biden and he would pardon him for stuff, when God knows that's just ridiculous. But imagine, I mean, it's like if Netflix has a series called Making a Moron. This is the dumbest play out of an extortion scheme I have ever heard. Because it isn't one, I guess technically. By the way, chat room, thank you guys for hanging in there as I've been reading all these stories and layering my computer screen with all kinds of crap as I try to see what I'm doing. And yes, my hair is very big today, and I'm very proud of it. I'm just hoping it gets longer. I need a little bit more length, and it'll be good. I'm not against extensions. I just don't think they're necessary at this point. This is, for whatever reason, the story, about Robert Levinson and the fact that he is, still in Iran or dead or what have you. In 2018, this is from Newsweek. I'll talk about this when I come back. But the whole thing is based on the idea of getting this dude out. Who is this guy? Who's Robert Levinson? And why is there this much money in getting him out of Iran? Yeah. What was he doing there? We'll be back right after this. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. Oh boy. No, actually going to kiss. Oh boy.
Ew.
What?
It'll be so exciting today.
Mm-hmm. Seriously, hold on one second. I'm gonna.
We are back in 20.
Excellent. Thanks. So here it goes. Hold on. I'm gonna go to. Yeah.
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the Mega Worldwide radio program with Hal Sparks.
Welcome back to the show, folks. So, who is Levinson in this? This guy, he disappeared in, I think, 2013. No, before that. Okay, so he'd gone to, here's the story. Okay, the plans were ready. On the $250,000 payoff cash was committed. So that this got real expensive over time.
Real fast.
$250,000 was enough to get this guy out allegedly in 2018. A former Air Force intelligence officer named Bob Kent, who's also named in the other stuff, was planning to board a plane in New York for the Middle East on a most improbable secret mission, freeing Robert Levinson from Iran. Levinson, an ex-FBI agent, well into a second career as a private detective, had disappeared over a decade earlier from a hotel on Iran's Kish Island. He'd been seen only twice since then. First in a hostage video his family received from unknown intermediaries in 2010. Then in photos 3 years later showing the then 63-year-old increasingly haggard and begging for help. So in 2010, they got photos of this dude. At first, the U.S. government claimed it had no knowledge of why Levinson, an expert in Russian organized crime, put a pin in that, had gone to Iran. The Iranian regime denied it was holding him, but in 2013, the Associated Press and other news outlets revealed that the ex-agent had gone to Kish on an off-the-books CIA mission to probe high-level Iranian money laundering. I don't know. They don't have a link to that article, which I find very curious. But whatever. To the Levinson family, that explained why the government had not adequately pursued his release over the years, or in a prisoner swap the Obama administration conducted with Iran. So the Obama administration worked on all this other stuff, but this guy, had previously been sent in, and it was on an off the books, under the table, some CIA operatives trying to get this dude to get in there and take a peek. The possibility also existed that rival factions in Iran had not been able to agree on his release after years of denying it had him. So there was a back and forth about that part of it. Desperate, his family put its own plans into motion to win his release. In doing so, they shared the plight of scores of families who loved ones have been snatched by the Iranians or Hezbollah, their Lebanese proxy, over the decades, including at present 4 Americans and a U.S. permanent resident held by Iran. Levinson's past FBI employment and then revelations of his murky CIA mission lend his case more gravity, of course, not to mention mystery. But in 2013, Levinson earned yet another dubious distinction. He became the longest-held U.S. hostage in American history. March 9th will mark the 12th anniversary of his disappearance. So this has been going on for a long time. Bob Kent, everybody at the, in Florida politics, has been linked to his family, and they've been trying to get this dude out for a while. And the price tag to get him out went from $250,000 to $25 million, apparently, because of the number of people added to the chain to get him out.
It's a lot of zeros.
It's a lot of zeros compared to the original part of it. Gaetz himself, oddly enough, may have contributed to this guy's death, according to the lawyers and the people representing the folks that are trying to get him out. Because it was an immediate request, they needed it happen right away, and they needed to start making payments about this. The dad had agreed to do this, and then they blew up the whole thing. So the irony that Matt Gaetz goes on Tucker Carlson and says, "Oh yeah, we're actually the New York Times blew up the FBI investigation that my dad was helping them with, not the other way around, that they blew up the Levinson family's chance of getting their relative out after all these years because they decided it was more politically advantageous for Matt if indeed they just, I guess, used it as PR cover for this investigation themselves. They didn't believe it would pay off. It might have been the whole, I can assure you we can get a Biden pardon. That might have been the step too far. I'm going to guess. Yeah? So, and by the way, don't forget, guys, twitch.tv/AlSparks. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe, and it doesn't cost you a dime. It's just lovely.
Is there a chance that this stuff was written up and they thought that Trump would still be president?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, maybe they just, they white out Biden's name or Trump's name and wrote in Biden in the original document, whatever. I've talked to the President Trump, and I'm still, it's so funny. It's 2021. I'm still writing Trump on my checks. So this, I think, let's see. Gaetz on Fox News Tuesday night said his father wore a wire in order to assist. That's, by the way, that is not confirmed by the documents from his lawyer or his cooperation with the FBI. That's a story. There is no way the FBI releases tapes on an ongoing public corruption investigation. Why would they do that? Why would they release the tapes before they go to...
do some help. A lot of those internet sleuthers.
Why would it... that I'm like, how are you... Again, I don't know. How dumb this dumb? It's stunning. But again, he knows, I guess this is the ploy, he knows the FBI cannot or will not release that tape. So by asking for it, he can allow for the inference thereof that it exists and that it is exculpatory. Right? That's right, like the use of the word extortion versus blackmail, which it is neither, we now know. And we now know, of course, that you can't, no one No one extorts a loan and interest-free and promises interest if they can't follow through on the extortion. This is mind-blowing. Because I know he was making this defense. I've seen him do it. I know he's going to try this full PR push. But Gaetz's PR team, if you're watching or this gets back to you, that was the dumbest move you could possibly do. Releasing the Project Homecoming document proves it's not extortion, proves it's not blackmail, proves that these guys thought that they could use this as at least personal pressure because they believe the evidence exists or they themselves have seen it or people that they know personally have told them as a primary source, I've seen the pictures. These girls, we looked into it. These are girls. These are not women. What's going to come out in the Joel Greenberg trial and what's going to come out in the FBI investigation is horrible. And the only thing that will protect him is a blanket presidential pardon. It's the only shot he has.
Yeah.
And by the way, the whole, like his lawyer saying, calling it an attempt to defraud, the scheme to defraud, that's because his lawyer doesn't believe it will help. The fraudulent part isn't we're going to go get Robert Levinson and bring him back. The fraudulent part is we're going to get your money and we're going to give it back to you once we get the reward for going and getting Robert Levinson and bringing him back. Right? The fraudulent part is you can make good. The fraud is you can't get him a pardon. The fraud is you can't make this investigation go away. The fraud is how do you stop something that's already gone to a grand jury in the state of Florida and the DOJ in Washington and provide, once you said we could get we're pretty sure we can arrange a pardon from Joe Biden. That's fraud, according to Don Gaetz's lawyer. It has to be. I'm stunned. I really, really am. I don't know how you get this dumb this quick. There is, and by the way...
And he's just going to keep stepping in it so hard because he can't stay quiet.
He cannot. And because he thinks that's the only... the prof is saying in there, thank you, Dana. Appreciate it. This is the only out he has. Literally. Be in the public eye. And I've said this before, there's a reason why people over the last 25 years since basically the Real World, the original one, have sought fame more than money most of the time. Because fame is more resilient than money. You can run out of money and people still recognize you on the street and might buy you a drink, right? That is a reality we live in. And in a media world, they have now weaponized the concept of the other side in terms of media on the Republican side as literally, it used to be that my reason for being is I fight for this, and this, which the other side does not fight for. I'm unique in this. And because I'm uniquely fighting for your rights and your needs, they are against me. And therefore, all the stories they create against me are fake news because I'm protecting you from them, right? That's the baseline premise that the Republicans have been selling for a long time. The problem is they're no longer fighting for those things. They aren't. They're not fighting for public safety. They're not fighting for, safe streets, clean drinking water, freedom, any of that stuff. It's all bumper sticker nonsense. They don't actually fight for it. So without that, now the argument is it's just because I'm an outspoken conservative. Because Matt Gaetz has to say that because he hasn't presented any bills. Dude has not brought any bills to the floor.
But he says no.
That's right. Yeah, but that again in the era of build that wall, there are a bunch of Republicans who are running on, and Mitch McConnell's the primary amongst them, running on the idea that they are a wall. Right? That is it. They are, Mitch McConnell, while Trump was saying build that wall about the southern border, that inhabited the spirit of the Republican Party, which is now the party of no. Right now, you have somewhere in the order of 45 to 60% of Republicans support the infrastructure package or a variation thereof that supported the COVID relief package that that Biden got passed in its entirety. Not like, oh, a smaller one. I would rather. A majority of them supported the package and so much so that Madison Hawthorne and other folks are going home to their districts and claiming it as a victory, even though they voted against it. There is literally an argument right now that when you talk about Republicans and you describe them for what they are worth in the political sphere, you are not talking at all about Republican voters, because you're looking at if they're split 50-50 on most stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you got when the electorate for your party is split 50-50, but the entirety of your elected officials are basically running interference against something that 50% of your constituents want, then you are no longer a representative government. You are
a wall.
You're a wall, right? You are literally running as a wall, and arguably with some success, being that wall. And the problem is, does filibuster reform and the ability to do these extra bills through reconciliation that have come through, and the ability to do anything that deals with budget and government spending, which is a whole heck of a lot, being able to move those through reconciliation, regardless of when, you know, if they allegedly they have 3 more times this year that they can use reconciliation to get a bill through, as long as it deals with government spending as an amendment to budgetary reasons, which is nearly everything, including infrastructure. The infrastructure bill is going to pass on reconciliation. It simply is. And all the wailing and gnashing of teeth of Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin is old school leverage for their districts. Believe me, there are going to be some major projects that are going to get thrown to West Virginia to rebuild the dead coal industry in the case of West Virginia, and to help Kristen Sinema in Arizona, help them connect what cities they have, because that's a whole lot of desert. And there's going to be a bunch of government stuff, whether they're going to bury uranium there and pay them rent or something, but those things are coming. And Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin will get something out of the deal, and then they'll end up signing off on a bunch of stuff. And stuff. Is
it about time for a break? Because Flora just yerketed.
Oh yes, it is. We got to take a break. It's perfect timing, actually. Thank her for reminding us. We'll be back right after this. We'll be back right after this. Johnny has clean up on aisle Johnny.
Yeah, I've seriously never seen Lisa laugh harder than when you did that bit. Up in Madison?
Yep, the cat bit.
Yep. At least I got her to do it on the hardwood.
You have them well trained, my friend. Yeah. I'm very impressed. Yeah, hold on.
Still warm, Hal.
I
mean, that's like good news, bad news, right? It'll come right up.
Mm-hmm. You tell him typing some.
Back in 20.
Thanks.
All right, I'll try to come up with other cues for us to go to break, Hal. I don't like that one.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a hairball.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending. Yay!
Yay!
My only regret is that I couldn't watch the chat.
The cat chat. Vomit. By the way, I just tweeted out on my Twitter feed the the full documents, Matt Gaetz says he supports his extortion claim. So in case anybody wants to look at those and thinks that I misread, misrepresented, or shortchanged anyone on my interpretation of them, I dare you, I defy you to...
No, you read out loud.
Yeah.
His reading comprehension is spot on, people.
It is. It's deadly. And the fact that they're even still calling it extortion anywhere, media, MSNBC, the Daily Beast, even Fox, CNN, stop using the word extortion when you're discussing his discussion of it.
Look here, media.
That ain't it. Oh, God, it's aggravating. So brutally stupid. We got a new patron. Thank you. Yay. By the way, patreon.com/HalSparks is a great way to support the show. You can do it monthly or annually. It's just a cool thing. And most of the benefits, I have to admit, come when things are back to normal. I'm doing live shows because like people who become patrons get to come to shows for free and that kind of stuff when I'm ever, bring a guest and that kind of stuff. And it kind of pays for itself just in one live show a lot of times. There's all sorts of other perks.
Somebody in chat said even Johnny's cat had finally had enough of
Matt Gaetz. Right? Yeah, literally, that is the result of reading Matt Gaetz stories to a cat. It's an isolated scientific experiment with no control. But yeah.
No control.
And we do have a little bit of good news overall. While even in Michigan, where COVID cases are up and dangerously so, and while just as much as the Rand Pauls of the world want a herd immunity based on getting it and getting through it, as opposed to getting a vaccine, and the stories about a third of people with COVID having mental or neurological disorders afterwards is very concerning. And again, with Rand Paul, how could you tell? In the vaccines by Pfizer and Moderna offer protection against COVID-19 for at least 6 months, meaning that it's still lasting. You're going to hear a bunch of these because most people are getting it and it's a rolling experience. They know that after 6 months, they're checking back in with people. They still haven't got it. It's been 6 months since the first doses that were tested last fall or last August. And so as we get into that, okay, they've had them for at least 6 months. It's still sticking, and they're working against the variants. Insofar as we have seen so far, which is pretty great. Like I said at the top of the show, California is opening as of June 15th. That's a good, I think,
crazy.
Yeah, it's a targeted date. It lets people plan their lives accordingly. And it is far enough in the future where it doesn't look like it will have to claw it back, where they'll reach a level of available stuff. The problem they have in Michigan, for example, is I think they are currently in Detroit. ICUs are at 83% capacity, and they are out of ventilators that they have used up. They're having to move people or bring in ventilators from other areas. That is a statistic or a detail we have not heard about since almost this time last year. And very concerning, obviously, because once people get on a ventilator in these circumstances, while some have come off and the treatments are getting a lot better, and they now know with proning and other things, they can, the patients surviving it are much better. A lot of the people who end up being on ventilators who require being on a ventilator have long-lasting lung damage. Some may end up needing lung transplants. It's a big deal. There's going to be a rolling effect. Over nearly 600,000 Americans who have died from COVID. There is also going to be a rolling post effect over the next 2 to 5 years to people who have had it and were caused lasting physical damage by it.
Yeah, imagine what your brain is doing if you can't smell or taste.
Right. Yes, it's looking
Which
everywhere.
Which part is swelling?
Right, exactly. And what's it putting pressure on? And what synapses are getting overfired or underfired, or what damage is causing that dislocation? It's literally like Johnny from Airplane just pulling plugs in your head, trying, Just kidding. There is a, this is a real problem, the COVID surge that's coming from this. And the only real answer we have is ubiquitous vaccination. Getting the disease and riding it out. If you're lucky enough to be in the percentile that doesn't get sick or is asymptomatic, good for you. If you're in the portion that gets hospitalized and you're in the portion that recovers without any neurological or psychiatric damage, good for you. But the rolling, 20% that go into the hospital that we had last year, of the 5% of those group that die, the rest of them now, we're seeing, the other 15% that are in the hospital, over half of those people, if not all of them, are getting lasting problems from it. Both lung damage, neurological damage, esophageal damage. There's, the strokes related to it that are coming up, blood clots and the like, which is an ongoing concern. This is all very, very serious. And so if you, you said you're getting your, I think this is the good news for the show. You're getting your shot tomorrow?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. What do you?
Shot one of Moderna.
Oh, right on. Cool. I got Pfizer. I'm curious to see, if you have a reaction. Usually, on Moderna, I've heard the second one is the one that
what
maybe
we're hearing.
knocks you out for a day. So they had two lanes where we went. You could go Pfizer or Moderna.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And because you're stand in line, it was because you're getting remnants, whatever's left over was what we got as our initial dose. So you're like, well, we got some Pfizer and some Moderna. I'm like, I'm going in the Pfizer line because and it worked because because it's a smaller needle and it's less of a dose. It's 0.3 milliliters opposed to 5. So it's a smaller jab, goes in your muscle, and arguably should hurt less in the muscle because you're getting less fluid injected into your muscle. Is the theory?
Did you alternate arms between the two doses?
Did I? No, I did both in the left arm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, maybe that's why it looks like Thanos' arm after it's just withered and gray.
I just heard it was like a pro tip to have one in one and one in the other.
Yeah, if the muscle soreness did not last. I'm curious in the chat room too, guys. 500 Loop says their second Moderna is Thursday coming up. Corrine says she's definitely using alternate arms. You absolutely can. I got the Pfizer stab and both times had monster headache afterwards. That's interesting. Yeah, but of course now we have the mark of the beast. There's no way we make the rapture, according to Mike Lindell. I don't know if you've been following that, but Mike Lindell.
Oh, is that the vaccine is the mark of the beast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Neato.
Yes, and Marjorie Taylor Greene even used in her statement last week that you will need his mark to buy or sell, which is the mark of the beast, the 666 thing in Revelations. She references that to vaccine passports. That if you
okay, deal.
Yeah, there is there's good news in this. The Military Times came out with a report that they are in human trials right now on this. But they may have a vaccine.
In humans.
An inhuman trial. They are in human trials in the military right now for a vaccine that can beat all coronaviruses. So the military is being
the common cold.
Yeah, exactly. All of them. Exactly. Finally curing the common cold and the flu and in general those diseases, which is extraordinary. And related to that. They did the first in-human trials on, and this is, I think, a solid.
I like the in-human trials.
The in-human trials, yes, it's there. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll let that go.
Black Bolt leads it. Yes, it leads the trials each time. A new vaccine for HIV is raising excitement after its first in human trials showed. A 97% success at stimulating a rare set of immune cells that play a key role in fighting the virus. The vaccine approach is a new attempt to head off the fast-mutating human immunodeficiency virus, which has eluded vaccines in the past because it attacks part of the immune system directly and is good at evading other immune defenses. Developed by scientists at Scripps Research in San Diego and the nonprofit International AIDS Vaccine Initiative, the vaccine is in phase 1 clinical trials and has been tested on only 48 people so far. However, the results of the trial generated excitement, especially because Scripps and IAVI will now partner with Moderna to make an mRNA version of the vaccine, a step that could lead to faster vaccine availability, according to Scripps Research. So all the study on an mRNA vaccine that was caused by the fight against COVID-19 and the speed by which it needed to be brought around has ignited a fire under the mRNA vaccine world, and they are now figuring out a way to uniquely target specific bacteria and specific cells instead of kind of blanket. Vaccines have always been a mini shotgun in your cells, and if you can narrow the blast to just the disease, that's when it helps. If it goes a little farther, or wider than that, it can take out some of your own good immune cells when you're dealing with something like HIV, and that's the problem with it. Well, now, because of mRNA vaccines and the study that's gone into it and the advancement, it's a beautiful thing. We may be looking at an HIV vaccine in our near future, which is a piece of good news. We will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for listening. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll see you next weekend. Everybody else, have a wonderful day. Thanks, Chicago. Except Matt Gaetz. Don't have a wonderful day, Matt.
Yeah.
I hope your day is as good as yesterday.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week. Sketch you were talking about?
Yeah. But I can't show it to anybody in the chat, so I'll do that privately in a second. So. Okay. And my computer's heating up, so I'm going to sign off on the chat because I'm doing Sexy Liberals tonight, so I got to sign off, guys, in the chat room and on the stream. I got to sign off now because I have Sexy Liberal tonight. I have to drive to Chicago before it because I'm doing the Film Threat Awards right afterwards. So I've got to do my part.
Drive to Chicago from where?
I mean, drive to L.A. Sorry, I'm talking to you. I said bye to Chicago, so I was brain farting on shutting things off. I have to shut off the software at the same time. So when we talk, it's not a monster. So I have to drive to LA before the Sexy Liberal show tonight. I have to be there in LA so that I can do my part of the Sexy Liberal pre-show and post-show and the panel that we're doing. So thank you so much, everybody, for the super chats today. By the way, and then after that, I'm doing the Film Threat Awards, which is award this. They're doing their show at a drive-in, which I've always thought is so appropriate anyways, but because of COVID, it's like making lemonade.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So Pfizer shot, happy to get it. Very excited. We'll talk about that. Have a great weekend, guys. I will let you guys go so my computer won't cook while I try to show Johnny something. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. We'll see you next time. Bye.